Welcome back. Please like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel.
Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today, we're looking at a major event from Russia, President Putin's annual marathon press conference.
And when we say marathon, we really mean it. He spoke for over 4 hours to a room full of journalists and citizens.
Wow, 4 hours? That is a lot of talking. So what was his main message this year?
Well, he sounded incredibly confident. He told the audience that the Russian military has fully seized the strategic initiative in the conflict in Ukraine.
Strategic initiative. That's a big term. For our listeners, that basically means he believes his army is now in control of the direction of the war and is moving forward.
Exactly. He said his troops are advancing steadily and forcing Ukrainian defenders to retreat in several areas.
Right, but I think what everyone really wants to know is, what about peace? Did he mention the diplomatic efforts from the United States?
He did, actually. He specifically talked about the peace plan recently suggested by President Trump.
Oh, interesting. Did he seem open to President Trump's ideas?
Well, he acknowledged the effort, but he is staying very firm. Putin said any deal must include Ukraine officially giving up its goal of joining NATO. He also wants them to recognize the regions that Russia claims to have taken.
So even though President Trump is pushing hard for a resolution, there is still a huge gap between what the Kremlin wants and what Ukraine feels is safe.
Exactly. It's a very tough situation for the White House to navigate.
It sounds like it. But what about the Russian people? Was the whole 4 hours just about the war?
Not at all. He spent a lot of time talking about the domestic economy. He promised to continue social payments and build better infrastructure.
I see. So he's trying to show that Russia is resilient, even with all the economic pressure from the West.
Precisely. He even framed the conflict as a civilizational struggle against Western influence. It was clearly a performance to show he is still in total control.
Wow. It sounds like he is preparing for a very long fight if his conditions aren't met.
Definitely. Well, that's our summary for today.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm Alex, and today we are diving into a major headline coming straight from the White House.
That's right, Alex. It's a big one. President Trump just signed a new executive order that is going to change federal drug policy in a huge way.
It really is. The big news is that President Trump is reclassifying marijuana. For a long time, it was a Schedule I drug. That's the same category as heroin.
Wow, heroin. That's a very strict category. But now it's moving to Schedule III. That puts it in the same group as things like ketamine or steroids.
Exactly. You might be wondering, why now? Well, President Trump said this decision is based on compelling medical facts. He recognizes that when a doctor supervises it, marijuana actually has legitimate medical uses.
Right. And he made a really important point about the opioid crisis. He noted that for many Americans, medical marijuana could be a much safer substitute for those highly addictive opioid painkillers.
That's a great point. It's about giving patients more options. But this isn't just about patients. It's also about the science.
Oh, definitely. One of the administration's main goals is to break down barriers for researchers. Before this, it was really hard for scientists to get federal money to study the plant.
Exactly. Now it'll be much easier to get grants for clinical trials. Plus, pharmaceutical companies can finally have a clear path to get FDA approval for new medicines and CBD products.
It's a massive shift. But we should be clear for our listeners. This doesn't mean marijuana is suddenly legal for everyone to use for fun, right?
Correct. That's a common point of confusion. Recreational use, or unauthorized use, is still illegal under federal law. President Trump was very clear that this is about medical integrity and research, not total deregulation.
Right. So the Department of Justice will still focus on catching large-scale illegal traffickers.
Exactly. Some lawmakers are worried it sends a confusing message, but the White House says this is just a common-sense move for medicine.
It's certainly the biggest federal change we've seen in decades. Thanks for joining us today to break this down.
See you next time. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our daily news catch-up. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today, we have some very big news from Washington, D.C. regarding international relations.
That's right. We're talking about a landmark announcement from the State Department. President Trump has officially approved a massive arms sale to Taiwan. We are talking about $11 billion.
Wow, $11 billion? That is a huge amount of money for a military deal. What exactly is included in this package, Alex?
Well, it's a mix of equipment. The main items are a large number of Stinger missiles and some very advanced coastal defense systems.
For our listeners who might not know, Stinger missiles are usually used to defend against aircraft. So the goal here is to bolster or strengthen Taiwan's defense, right?
Exactly. The Trump administration says this is necessary because there has been more military activity from Beijing recently. They want to make sure Taiwan has the tools to protect itself.
You know, I heard President Trump mention this before. He often says that a strong defense is the best deterrent against aggression.
Right. A deterrent is something that stops someone from attacking because they see you are prepared to fight back. It's all about maintaining the status quo, or keeping things the way they are right now.
But I imagine this news didn't go over well in Beijing. What are they saying?
Oh, they are not happy at all. China's Taiwan Affairs Office issued a very strong statement. They called the sale blatant interference in their internal affairs.
Blatant is a good word for our learners. It means something is very obvious and maybe a bit disrespectful.
Exactly. They even warned that they might take countermeasures, though they didn't say exactly what those would be yet.
It sounds like a delicate balance. But back in the U.S., it seems like there is a lot of agreement on this, right?
Yes, it's actually quite bipartisan. That means both the Republicans and the Democrats in Congress support the deal. They believe it's a critical step for stability in East Asia.
Plus, it's a big boost for U.S. defense companies who will be building all this equipment.
Definitely. We'll have to wait and see how this impacts the relationship between Washington and Beijing moving forward.
Thanks for the update, Alex, and thanks to our listeners for joining us today.
See you next time. Welcome back to the show. Today, we have some mind-blowing news about deep space, tiny particles, and a whole lot of money.
That's right, Alex. Some of the world's richest tech billionaires are opening their wallets for big science. We're talking about a massive pledge of $1 billion.
$1 billion? Wow, that is a huge amount. And this money is going to CERN in Europe, the famous physics lab, right?
Exactly. They are funding a successor to the famous Large Hadron Collider. The new project is called the Future Circular Collider, or the FCC.
For our listeners who might not know, the current collider is already very big, but this new one is on a totally different level. It will be an underground ring 62 miles long.
It really is incredible. It's designed to smash protons together at even higher energies. Scientists hope this will help them unlock secrets about dark matter and the fundamental laws of the universe.
That sounds like something out of a science fiction movie. But why are private individuals paying for this instead of governments?
That's a great question. You see, international competition is really heating up right now. China is currently evaluating its own plans for a massive particle accelerator to challenge Europe.
I see. And what about the situation here in the U.S.?
Well, as we know, President Trump is currently focusing on national budgets and prioritizing American interests. Because government funding for these giant projects can be difficult to secure, CERN is looking for other ways to stay ahead.
Right. President Trump always emphasizes the importance of staying competitive. So tech leaders like Eric Schmidt from Google are stepping in to help bridge the gap.
Exactly. It's being called a new era of philanthropic science. But Alex, some people are a bit worried. Is it a good idea for billionaires to fund public research?
It's a tough debate. Some experts worry these wealthy donors might try to influence the research direction.
CERN has been very clear about that, though. They've assured the public that the donors will have no influence over the experiments or the results.
That's good to hear. Plus, these projects often lead to spillover benefits for everyone, right?
Definitely. The donors mention that this research leads to breakthroughs in medical imaging, better energy efficiency, and super-fast computing.
So even if we don't understand the complex physics, we might get better technology in our daily lives.
Precisely. This $1 billion pledge is just the start of a very exciting decade for science.
Well, the future looks very bright and very fast. Thanks for joining us today.
See you next time.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today we have some massive news from the world of finance. It's all about Japan.
Right. For the first time in 30 years, the Bank of Japan has raised its interest rate to 0.75%.
Wow, 30 years? That is a long time. You know, to put that in perspective, many of our younger listeners weren't even born the last time rates were this high in Japan.
Exactly. For decades, Japan was famous for zero interest rates. Basically, borrowing money was almost free. But now, the lost decades of zero rates are officially over.
So, Alex, why is the Bank of Japan doing this now?
Well, the bank officials had a big meeting last week.
They said the Japanese economy is finally resilient and inflation is firming up. They feel confident enough to move toward a more normal economy.
I see. It's interesting because this is quite different from what we are seeing in other countries, right?
Good point, Jamie. For example, here in the United States, President Trump has been focused on balancing economic growth with inflation control. While President Trump's administration and the Federal Reserve are being more cautious, Japan is moving quickly to end their era of extreme stimulus.
That makes sense. But what does this mean for regular people? Is it good news or bad news?
Well, it's a bit of a mix. If you have a savings account in a Japanese bank, you're finally going to earn some interest. Banks are also happy because they can make better profits now.
That sounds like a win. But what about the downside?
Right, there's always a catch. If you have a mortgage or a business loan in Japan, your costs are going up. It's a bit of a shock after so many years of cheap debt.
And I heard the Japanese yen is getting stronger too.
Exactly. Investors are moving their money back to Japan. This might end those carry trades where people borrow cheap yen to invest in other countries.
Wow, it's amazing how one small percentage change can affect the whole world.
It really is. It's a historic shift for global finance.
Well, thanks for explaining that, Alex. It's definitely a story to watch.
Definitely. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to the Daily Insight. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today we're talking about something that affects everyone's wallet, inflation. Alex, I have some good news for a change.
Oh, I love good news. Let's hear it.
Well, the latest report says U.S. inflation settled at 2.7% in November. That's down from 3% earlier this fall. Even core inflation, which ignores food and energy, dropped to 2.6%. That's actually the lowest in nearly 4 years.
Wow, that is a big deal. So things are getting cheaper?
Not exactly cheaper, but prices are rising more slowly. It's a relief for consumers for sure. However, the report was a bit late because of those recent government shutdowns. It took nearly 2 months to get this data.
Right, I remember that. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. While inflation is cooling, other parts of the economy look a bit, stagnant.
Exactly. That's the tricky part. Even though inflation is down, the unemployment rate rose to 4.6% in November. That's the highest we've seen in over 4 years.
That's a tough spot for the White House. President Trump campaigned on the promise of a golden age for the economy. He's been pushing for deregulation and more energy production to help lower costs even further.
True, and he often mentions that his administration is still working to overcome the inherited inflation from previous years. But for many voters, the golden age feels a bit uneven.
I see what you mean. For example, gasoline and eggs are cheaper now than they were last year. That's great. But then you look at electricity and housing costs. Those are still climbing.
Exactly. It's hard to feel like the economy is fixed when your rent or power bill keeps going up every month.
So what's next? Are we going to see a change in policy?
Analysts are divided. Some think the lower inflation gives the Federal Reserve room to cut interest rates. That could help the job market. But others say the economy is too stagnant to take big risks right now.
It's a balancing act for sure. We'll have to see if President Trump's strategy can turn these mixed signals into steady growth.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us today to break it all down.
See you next time.
Welcome back to our daily news update. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Thanks for joining us. Today we're discussing some major news coming from the White House regarding immigration and national safety.
That's right. President Trump has officially issued an executive order to suspend the Diversity Immigrant Visa Program. Most people know this more commonly as the Green Card Lottery.
Wow, that is a huge change. I know a lot of people use that program to move to the U.S. Why did this happen so suddenly?
Well, it's a direct response to those tragic shootings we saw recently at Brown University and MIT. A federal investigation revealed that the primary suspect in those attacks actually entered the United States through that specific lottery program.
Oh, I see. So President Trump is making this move for security reasons.
Exactly. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem confirmed the decision. She said that at the direction of President Trump, the administration is taking action to close vulnerability gaps in our national security.
Vulnerability gaps. That basically means weaknesses or holes in the system, right?
Spot on. In his address to the nation on Wednesday night, President Trump argued that the current program lacks rigorous vetting. That means the background checks aren't deep or strict enough to ensure everyone's safety.
Right, that makes sense. And he mentioned moving towards a merit-based system.
Yes, exactly. He wants to focus on security and skills rather than a random lottery. He emphasized that his priority is protecting college campuses and urban centers. He actually blamed the loose policies of the past for letting dangerous individuals get permanent residency.
I imagine there is a lot of debate about this, though. Not everyone agrees, right?
You're right, there's a lot of pushback. Civil rights groups and some lawmakers are criticizing the suspension. They argue that the lottery is a vital tool for global diversity. They believe one criminal act shouldn't result in ending a long-standing legal pathway for thousands of peaceful people.
It's a very difficult situation. So is this suspension permanent?
Well, the administration says it will stay indefinitely, which means for an unknown amount of time, until they finish a total and complete review of all security procedures.
It's definitely a somber time for the country after those shootings.
It really is. This policy shift shows that President Trump is making immigration reform a cornerstone of his national defense strategy.
Thanks for explaining that, Alex. It really helps to understand the context behind the headlines.
No problem. We'll keep you updated as we learn more. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, we are discussing a major headline from the White House that sounds like something out of a high-stakes action movie.
It really does, Alex. We are talking about the opioid crisis. This week, President Trump officially signed an executive order designating fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, or a WMD.
Wow. Now, for our listeners who might not know, WMD usually refers to things like nuclear bombs or biological weapons. So calling a drug a WMD is a very big deal, right?
Exactly. It's an unprecedented move. By reclassifying it this way, President Trump is allowing the government to use specialized resources that are normally reserved for extreme military threats.
So we're talking about more than just regular police work?
Right. This means broader intelligence gathering and a much more aggressive role for the military. The goal is to intercept the drug before it even crosses the U.S. borders.
That makes sense, especially when you look at the statistics. I read that law enforcement seized nearly 8,000 pounds of fentanyl in 2024 alone.
That's a massive amount. And get this, the White House says that is enough to provide over 367 million deadly doses. It's a huge scourge, as the president described it.
So who is the main target of this new order?
The order specifically targets transnational criminal organizations and foreign cartels. These are the groups in Asia and Mexico that manufacture and ship the drug. President Trump has directed the Attorney General to pursue much tougher criminal charges and longer sentences for these traffickers.
It sounds like a very tough approach. But Jamie, are people worried about the public health side of this? You know, helping people who are already struggling with addiction?
You're spot on. Some experts are worried that a security-only focus might overlook the need for treatment. However, President Trump addressed this. He said that while his administration will be the toughest in history on traffickers, they are also looking at alternatives.
Right, like the reclassification of marijuana that was announced recently.
Exactly. The administration wants to provide safer medical options for pain management while dismantling the dangerous fentanyl supply chains. It's all part of the Safety First agenda for 2026.
It's definitely a bold strategy. Let's see how these new legal teeth affect the crisis. Thanks for joining us, Jamie.
Thanks, Alex. See you next time.
Welcome to the show. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today we have some big news about where you keep your money. Have you ever thought of PayPal as a real bank?
Well, it's finally happening. PayPal has officially applied to the government to create PayPal Bank in Utah. This is a major step because it means they can soon offer interest-bearing savings accounts.
Interest-bearing? That's a great term for our listeners. It means the bank pays you a little bit of money just for keeping your savings there, right?
Exactly. They also want to provide direct lending solutions to small businesses. To make sure everything goes smoothly, they've hired a banking veteran, Mara McNeil, to lead the way.
That's very smart. It shows they are serious about following all the rules. Meanwhile, across the ocean, the UK company Monzo is making big moves too. They just secured a full European banking license.
Wow, so they are expanding quickly into the European Union.
Yes, they've even set up a new regional headquarters in Dublin, Ireland. But the most exciting part is that Monzo just announced its first ever acquisition, a company called Habito.
I've heard of them. They are a digital mortgage broker, right?
Exactly. A mortgage is a special loan used to buy a house. Now, Monzo users can find and secure a home loan directly through the app. It makes the whole process of buying a home much faster.
That sounds so much easier than the traditional way.
It seems like these fintech or financial technology companies are no longer just small players. They are becoming the new pillars of the banking sector.
You're right. And it's interesting because this fits perfectly with the current environment in the U.S. President Trump and his administration have been signaling a strong preference for this kind of technological innovation in finance.
That's a good point. President Trump wants the United States to lead the world in digital-first banking infrastructure. This support from the government gives these companies the confidence to expand even further.
It really feels like we are moving towards super apps. Imagine having one app that handles everything from your daily coffee to your first home.
It's a huge shift in how we handle our lives. Well, that's all for today's update.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Hello and welcome to our update. Today we have some very heavy news from the sports world that has left many fans in tears.
That's right, Alex. It's a heartbreaking day for NASCAR. We are reporting on the tragic death of racing legend Greg Biffle, who was killed in a private plane crash in North Carolina.
It's just terrible. Greg was only 55 years old. The crash happened on Thursday, and sadly, 6 other people were also on board, including several members of his immediate family. Reports confirmed there were no survivors.
Wow, his family too? That is such a huge loss for the community to handle. The plane went down in a wooded area shortly after takeoff, right?
Exactly. And what's strange is that the weather was relatively clear at the time. The National Transportation Safety Board, or the NTSB, is already investigating. Preliminary reports suggest there might have been a sudden mechanical failure.
I see. You know, Greg Biffle was a real cornerstone of the sport. He was a celebrated driver who won championships in both the Xfinity and Truck Series. He even had 19 wins in the Premier Cup Series. He was known for his bluegrass grit.
He certainly was. He spent most of his professional life with Roush Fenway Racing. But he wasn't just about speed, Jamie. He was also very involved in philanthropy, especially through his foundation's work to help animals.
That is a wonderful legacy to leave behind. Even President Trump shared his condolences today. President Trump called Greg a true champion and a great American, noting how much he meant to the sport of the sport.
It's true. When President Trump speaks about a loss like this, it shows how much Greg Biffle impacted the entire country, not just racing fans.
Definitely. But Alex, this tragedy is also starting a conversation about safety, isn't it?
Yes. It sparked a renewed debate about the safety of private aviation. Many high-profile athletes travel constantly between events, and people are wondering if more needs to be done to protect them.
Right. It's a dangerous way to travel if anything goes wrong. For now, the racing community in Mooresville is just trying to support the surviving relatives.
This is a sad day for everyone. We'll keep our listeners updated as the investigation continues.
Thanks for joining us today, everyone. Stay safe.